I'd like to call the meeting for the Master Plan Implementation Committee to order. And I'd like to ask if anybody is recording this meeting. LakeCAM is recording the meeting. Take attendance. Rodney Dixon, present. You want to go right around the corner, go Rita?
Okay.
Go right around?
Okay. Rita Garbutt, present.
Joseph Chamberlain, present.
Ari Sky, present.
Patrick Marshall, present.
Denise Barbuto, present.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, if we could rise and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Got a somewhat short agenda tonight. Just one point of reference. The last number, any other business, is listed as 9. If we can make a correction to number 7.
I was wondering about that.
I kept changing things.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, 7 and 8 are the hidden things.
Yes, yeah.
As long
they're
as,
an invisible
as long as
link.
the next number in sequence, you're fine.
Correct. Just wonder if there was any hidden.
As a Fibonacci sequence or something like that.
Very true. All right, so review and possible vote to approve the meeting minutes from December 6th. If we could do that. Does everyone have the opportunity to review?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes of December 6, 2022.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Review the updated master plan implementation chart. Would you like to do that, Rita?
I did pass out the updated, but even after I did that, a couple of places I saw, I still had superintendent of streets in 2 places, so I changed it to DPW director, and then some of the, sections, although you can't really tell on here, that were in gray, I went back and if I had typed in it, I took the gray, what do you call it, the highlighting off. So there were a couple of changes since I passed this out.
Okay. Do we want to not review every single item, of course, but only the items that have updates?
I didn't, because we went over it last time.
Correct.
So I just made those changes.
Okay. All right, so that's fair enough. So do we want to just not review? Because we did review and we did a comprehensive review last time.
We did last time.
Okay, are there any questions about the updates? Any questions about what's in front of us at this point?
When I send it to Tracy, those changes have been made.
Okay, that's
Have
great.
her
So,
get it up on the website.
yep. All right, excellent, thank you. So, no questions. We'll move forward to the next item. Discuss the committee's priorities going forward. Who wants to start?
I would have to say that our biggest concern as a town would be the state's push for affordable housing. I just realized those teeny tiny little houses they're building down on Route 28 in Middleborough.
I saw that, the one with the, right next to, Cumbies.
Oh, no, not that one.
That's next to the graveyard.
Puts my life with the little graveyard around there. My wife goes hysterical every time she sees that little building. The ones further down, and they're all about 6 feet apart.
Oh, yes, yeah, correct.
I
know.
just noticed the other day going by, each one of those is a double.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm just terrified that that's our future. Imagine how many of those you could put on the old hospital site.
On Route
Look over near the
28,
train station.
Correct.
after Shepherd's Pass, on the left.
Is that, yeah, that'd be about right, I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's similar to what's on Route 79.
Yeah.
Joe, take a look over at the train station, behind the train station. The twins along there, they're pretty dense.
This is, there's gotta be.
I do think that there is a certain amount of denialism going on as far as about what's about to hit every town in the Commonwealth, especially anyone that are commutable to to Boston especially. Boston's situation is untenable in terms of housing, and as always in this state, you're gonna be looking outside of Boston to solve Boston's problems.
Oh, yeah.
And, there will, if we don't think that if anyone thinks that we're going to be able to just sort of, you know, sort of fortress Lakeville and keep development happening, it's not gonna happen. There's gonna be too many, at first it'll be incentives and then it'll just become forced on us.
Let me, I was gonna say, let me ask that question. This is a very controversial, law about the high-density housing, forced high-density housing.
yeah.
I know in Connecticut, Fairfield, if my memory serves, is fighting Connecticut's law, with the mandated high-density housing. And so far, they're doing okay, but it's a very expensive proposition, a very lengthy proposition. What leverages, if any, does Lakeville have to combat this law? And I've said this in an open forum, we should not be forced to accept the high-density housing. If people, and this again may be controversial, if people can afford to live in a location, that's one thing. But they don't have the right to live here insofar as having a government tell us they have to live here and we will comply with high-density housing. So what, if any, leverage does Lakeville have to restrict, reduce, or whatever term you want to use, mitigate, probably a better term, to mitigate high-density housing?
I think that the high density housing is a problem, but the bigger, more present problem for Lakeville right now is just 40B. And,
Correct.
and there's, that's the longest house, not much, once the economic incentives are there to develop 40B housing, there's not gonna be much we can do to stop it.
Can it be just for elderly, or does it have to be open to everybody?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Can it be
40B?
just for
40B.
elderly?
It could be to a degree, you could mitigate to some degree, and the main advantage of that is that it keeps the school population down. But, you know, it eventually just becomes, you know, it's for example, if you were to take, take the hospital site, you know, there are ways that you can mitigate the impact of housing going in there. You can do some age restricted component. You can make it a 40R district, which would conceivably get the town some money back in transfer, assuming that program stays funded, which I doubt that it will, given the pattern of these kind of programs. But in the end, it's just going to be, you know, it means you're going to be able to stop the fact that there are more people and more cars and more development. And the important thing to do, and one of the benefits of the master plan, is that it channels that, and that's really your best bet in terms of maintaining the character of the town, is to sort of satisfy the dragon by designating the areas that can be developed, and you know.
So let me ask this question, which I've asked and I've never gotten an answer to in all the years that I've asked this question. Of all the land in Lakeville that can be developed, if it is developed, what would we max out at for census?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Right, why don't we know this answer?
And
And I'm not saying it to you personally, I'm saying,
It was done years
why
ago.
does this town not know?
Because the nature of housing has changed. That's your answer.
Okay.
We knew kind of, I think, when it was, you know, 70,000 square foot lots, then you could just do the simple mathematics
correct.
and figure out how many. But now,
No.
I mean, we have, I keep looking at that place on the back of the Lakeville Hospital property on Route 79, where there's 18 housing units on what used to be a house lot.
Correct. 70,000 square, right?
Yeah.
Right, correct.
And that goes.
So if we're gonna do the math, if we could take what's available, and if we can do 18 in the 70, well then how many 70,000 square foot lots do we have now, and then just multiply it by 18?
Also,
So
bear
do
in
you
mind,
no longer have to have the 200 feet frontage?
we still do.
175.
175.
Yeah.
No, it's 175.
Also, bear in mind that a portion of the area, a good chunk of the town is undevelopable because of watershed issues. And, because it's because you're affecting the public water.
So who do I need to talk to get the answer?
Well,
Seriously, I'm not being kind of a pinhead. I wanna know who do I talk to in this town to get that answer?
If indeed
Well-
there is a cut and dried answer.
Well,
A
when
close
they-
enough
I mean,
answer, but I've asked this
we can dig into
question.
it. Honestly, Ryan, it's the first time I've been asked this question, so.
I don't mean you personally,
I know, well,
but
I
I'm
know.
saying I've asked this of people in town
Yeah.
for years and no one can give a straight
Circa
answer.
did that
It's
for all
frustrating.
the towns years ago.
Yeah.
But for Lakeville, remember, the Bates, the pig farm is zoned industrial,
Right.
so the numbers aren't accurate.
But as we talk about the master plan and our priorities and the goal, if housing is the goal and the priority, which I absolutely agree, because that's gonna fundamentally change to Lakeville. It's gonna fundamentally change our lifestyle, it's gonna change our tax base, it's gonna change a lot. Right, we're gonna get away from that rural character, we're gonna get more developed, we can see it somewhat now. Where does it stop? When does it stop? We
And then-
first must know what's available to develop, what kind of development, and what are we gonna
Well,
peak at?
there's other factors too, because, you know, my property's under 61, chapter 61, chapter land, 78 acres. We have a lot of chapter lands in town, typically farmed or forestry, but at some point, the value of the land becomes so high that the owner says, okay,
So,
you know, you want my 105 acres?
Sure.
Here you go, and then you just, good Lord knows, you know, how much you could put on that piece of property.
So it's possible to do the research, find out how many properties could be developed, what's protected or in, you know, the 61, and other properties, and do a best case, worst case scenario. Because that's gonna drive what this town looks like in the future. And the housing market right now too, the prices, this is, I think I can't remember who said it, but we're technically an affluent town now,
Yeah,
right?
just going by the house
That's
prices,
to
right?
me, that's an oxymoron. When I
Right.
growing up in Lakeville, affluent was not a word associated with Lakeville in
Right.
any capacity.
We were a farming community.
We were a farming community,
no, it's considered an affluent town now.
right? So now if we're considered affluent,
With the
then
fifth
that's,
highest richest in southeastern Mass.
yeah.
The only thing anyone knew about Lakeville back then was, oh, Ted Williams camp.
Ted Williams.
Oh, yeah, the baseball camp.
Yep.
That was all that anyone knew.
Yeah.
So if priorities are housing, then that's great. What other?
Well, I think under that, the whole land use goals, then the 2.1, 2.2 is, whether or not they're gonna have that open space residential design bylaw, which, will allow the density but keep open space. I think that's, you know, utilize effective zoning practices to shape Lakeville's future growth. And I think we're able to, maintain open space with, the open space design bylaw. I think that's one of that's one of my priorities. I don't know about the rest of
It's
the,
gonna have to be, if that's a mitigation strategy, then that's what we're gonna have to employ. If what I hear Ari saying, that we have no choice, you know, the state is gonna force us to do certain
It's like you're on a
things.
sailing ship it's like you're on a sailing ship and the wind is blowing you towards the west. You'll be able to tack to the north and the south, you know, but generally speaking, you're being pushed in one direction.
what,
It- It's a very good metaphor,
what are
thank
we
you very much.
required now? What was like, is our requirement for new units?
I don't remember the number exactly, Rita, I'm sorry.
Was it 1,000 and then it was reduced to
It was reduced, it's not
250?
1,000 anymore, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, it's like
I
four.
heard 250,
We have to have,
Like 258 or something like that, yeah.
we have to have those units?
more units.
Yeah, under the MBTA Communities Program, you would, yeah. You have, well, you don't have to have them, but you have to be
You have to have this.
receptive to the development until you have them.
Yeah.
Because you can't close the door until those numbers are there.
Are we ever gonna meet those numbers?
Good question. I
Wasn't it?
can think of one site where you could easily get that number, but that's just another,
But this is what I'm talking about.
yeah.
You know, we have this great plan, there's a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into this. People that have been in this town a long time, they want to keep the rural character. I want to keep the rural character, I'm sure everyone else does. But if we have outside influences that are going to prevent us from
We just gotta get chummy with Connecticut and find out what they're doing.
they've employed attorneys that are fighting the, the legality of the law. I think here, though, it's very difficult being, we've got a majority of the state is one party, and if that's the philosophy of that party and they want it to happen, it's very, very difficult to get laws changed, or get them, at least reduced to where they're manageable. And I think this is an overstep, my opinion only, that it's government overstep to mandate what we have to have here in Lakeville. A lot of people I speak to, a lot of my friends, they're concerned. Housing prices, I know some young people that are priced out. They love Lakeville, want to move to Lakeville, can't afford Lakeville. So if they can't, with what their situation is, why should we be forced to take others that may not otherwise be able to afford it, right? So, would I want to live in, I don't know, pick a town or pick on the ocean, where prices are extremely high? Of course I'd love to live there, but if I can't afford it, I'm not going to live there. I don't have the right to go to that town and say, I'm going to live here because I have the right to. No, you got to live within your means and you have to do things.
And you can do what Americans has historically, over decades, have done. Move on.
Yeah.
Nothing says just because,
Yep.
I hear the line, from people in town, oh, my kids can't afford to live here. Where's it written that that's a law?
Right.
You do what Americans have done. Move on.
Yep.
You find another piece of property, because the problem is, you're bringing your problems with you.
Correct. And the reason why we came back to Lakeville, I came back to Lakeville after after the military and private sector, was this is where I could afford 22 years ago. Was working in Boston and lived near Boston. I think this is great, got priced out when the rent went up, and I said, well, I can be a homeowner with a mortgage, roughly the same, or I can pay rent to somebody and have really no equity. And we started looking, and lo and behold, we could afford Lakeville.
And for me, Joe, I was born here.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't want to move on.
Right. And I'm a semi-native from Rochester.
Yep. So, and then I think of people like my mom, and I've said it before in an open forum, my mom's 85 and, she's on a fixed income. We lost our dad in 98. So, as these things change and our taxes go up, eventually people are, are going to not be able to afford the lifelong residence.
Yep.
So where do we stop? Where do we mitigate? How do we do it? I don't know. So we have to get people that can do this. Our state rep is limited in what he can do, of course, and but I'm open to any suggestions to pass along and to talk to people and that may have the some ideas of how we can do this.
There's been some articles recently in the Boston Globe about, this being forced to have higher density housing and so forth. And aside from 40B, you can refuse to make the areas available, but you've lost area. You would know the funds are.
You lose the community one-stop grant. Yeah.
What is that? What is it and how much is it?
Yeah.
Can be a lot. And there's talk now about them eliminating community compact grant eligibility too, which would be a real problem for us because we do pretty well with it.
How much of our budget is of that, do you know?
Community compact grants we've gotten past several years, probably about $500,000 worth.
And what are they used for?
We use them for broadband improvements to town facilities. We use them for records retention work. We use them for what was it? Another one as well. So it was work done over at the animal shelter as well, and then the community one-stop grant. I don't know that the town has had one in the past, but we've applied for a few. One of the ones we're looking at is one for the Bridge Street intersection. If those are large, if those used to be called the Mass Works grants, big infrastructure grants. This town hasn't needed those too much in the past, but there's certainly a couple opportunities. I don't know, it's a value choice and it's a decision that the town should make. I think, to me, the real point is that, well, I think just as someone who's admittedly an outsider, if this, the town really needs to, and however this is done, find a way, working in concert with each other, the members of the community, to decide what the vision is and to hold to that vision and move forward with it. I think unfortunately, something that I think the past, events of the past couple of years have shown is that no one person can carry the load for everything. And even if a person may think that he or she is able to do so. And this town doesn't tend to react well that way. People are very independent. They don't like being told what to do. And this community,
That's my point exactly, we're being told what to do.
If the community wants to make a stance against it, the community has to stand together to do that.
Right, so let's say for sake of argument, the grant's $500,000. If 40B comes in, what type of revenue would be generated to the town?
Depends how many, depends how many, well, 40B,
Let me
40B
rephrase
is
the
different.
question. How many 40B units would generate $500,000 worth of revenue if we lost the revenue?
Probably about 80,
So
thereabouts.
if we put in mitigation strategies to reduce the 40B, and we could somehow maintain the $500,000, but we could reduce the overall number of 40B, would that not be a mitigation strategy?
Well, two different things, because the 40B, just the problem with 40B housing is that it usually carries with it school children.
Correct.
So the cost of that, even if you're getting $500,000 in revenue out of those houses, you're spending more than that.
You're gonna spend a lot more because.
The kind of cost of the kids and
That's
everything
correct.
else. So,
But I thought it was school children or elderly. It isn't?
you can do elderly, but you can't do only elderly. You can't like make all of your new housing or just 55 and older. It's not, you can't do that.
Is Mr. Resnick able to help solve the questions, or answer the questions, excuse me, that I posed?
Yeah, sure, I think so. Be happy to ask them to.
Yeah, if you could, because,
You're talking about the population question?
yeah, population
Yeah.
question first, because we need to know best case, worst case, and then we gotta come up with a strategy. When I say we, I mean the town. I mean, we are a non-policy setting committee. We have said that many times. But if this is what the citizens want, and this is the vision, but our vision's gonna be obscured by, politicians, then what power do we have as citizens?
I mean, any estimate will obviously be extremely speculative.
Oh, yeah, no, it's, I'm not gonna say, well, you said X and, just a ballpark, that's all.
You can
What's
estimate
available,
based
and
on, you can estimate on acreage of permeable area, what kind of theoretical development you could have, you can do that.
Yeah.
It's just a math question.
I guess we're almost at 12,000, correct, Rita, for census?
Yeah, just under,
Yeah, so-
we're probably over 12 by now.
So let's say we're over 12, there was how many when, I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but anyway, when I was a kid,
5,000.
it was about 5,000 when we were a kid, right? So,
Hold on.
2.5 times
I'll tell you exactly.
in my
a
lifetime?
second. I can tell you exactly in a moment.
Well, he's looking that up. Well, we're fairly close to the 10% for 40B2, if I recall.
No.
No, we're well
No,
below.
Six
We
and a half.
are
Like a
losing it.
4%.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we've lost ground on
We
that.
lost
Yeah, we've
ground.
lost ground.
Yeah.
Census came out.
So
right.
this is what I'm talking about. This is an unattainable goal. When you really think about how many towns and cities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts out of 351, how many have met this 40?
Oh, very few.
Right?
Not many.
That's my point.
So
they know.
People
they-
feel, we're never gonna reach it.
Right, so this is what I'm talking about. Well, not feel, the reality is we're not.
Middleborough
honest.
Middleborough hit the 10%.
They did?
Yeah,
Right, but out of
Even before the
351, how
train
many
station
towns, Rita?
we just did.
Pardon?
Do you know off the top of your head?
No, not anymore.
All
I
right.
don't.
We can find that out. That's an easy fix, but out of
In southeastern
351,
Mass, not many.
not many,
No,
right?
no.
So really, this is an unfunded, I don't say unfunded, but it's a mandate.
Unfunded mandate.
It's an unfunded mandate.
It is.
Right, who suffers? We suffer. And we have, here's a crap sandwich, you're gonna like it. You know, and that's the real, no, I'm being honest, guys. So I'm a little fired up right now because it's something that we talked about for years, really. But when you strip away all of the conversation, the reality is we're gonna have to do this. Like you said, use the, you're sailing and you get some wind and you can tack and stuff, that's great, but you're still getting pushed in a direction. Well, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is pushing us in a direction that we don't want, quite frankly. So what can we do about it? And we've asked that question. We're gonna have to look at some mitigation strategies, but again, being a non-policy setting committee, there's not a whole lot we can do as a committee, but as individuals, we have influence as citizens.
Well, what are they doing to enforce it? Like, they're not gonna charge into the town and say, stop building.
Well.
No, but if I understand, you
It's all
get an
financial.
unfriendly developer that comes in and says, Lakeville, we're sorry to hear that you haven't met the 10%. And they have the legal right to come in and develop
But
it.
most of ours have been friendly 40Bs, but
Right.
why we haven't been hit like other communities is the infrastructure. We don't
Yeah,
have
right.
water and sewer.
Right, so that,
A lot of.
maybe that's a
You also-
mitigation, maybe that's a mitigation strategy right there. Let's still not have water.
I think
and sewage.
I think it's a very conscious strategy that this town has taken to limit water and sewer in certain areas. Two-channel development that way, and that, by the way, that's not unique to Lakeville. It's tried and true, strategy for localities anywhere when it comes to living
the
development.
rural
Yeah.
Right.
communities.
Anywhere,
Fine.
any part of the country. When I was in Virginia, one of the counties I worked for, Fauquier County, Virginia, has a deliberate policy just like that, where they have channel development to these certain areas where they allow water and sewer to go. But, I think that the issue, Denise, is not so much what they can do now, but, and we don't know the answer to this, but we have a new governor who's made it very clear that housing is her absolute top priority. So we don't know what incentives and enticements or mandates are going to be coming from this administration in the next year. We just don't. But there's gonna be something.
You want my sarcastic answer? We're not gonna have that. It's gonna be the carrot and the stick. They're gonna take the carrot away and beat you with the stick. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because this, again, it goes back to the one-party state, what we have. And if this is what the legislature and the governor are the same party, this is what they want, they're gonna make it happen. There's nothing that we can do about it.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's some interesting, see, this goes back to the earlier discussion. We were talking about the population. This is really quite fascinating. And I think anyone watching the public will be knowing this too. From 1860 to 1940, the population ranged for the town from 1,160 people to 1,780 people. So for those 80 years, basically no growth really.
1960?
1860 to 1940.
Oh, 1940.
1950, it started to go up. It went to 2,066. Then 1960 to 3,209. 1970, 40,376. Still, percentages, big increases, but, basically hundreds of thousands, maybe 1,000 people.
Yeah.
1980, 5931, 1990, 7785, 2000, 9821, 2010, 10602, 2020, 11523. So that it actually slowed down a little bit in the 2010, 2020 compared to what it did from say 1970 to 2000. But I think when you talk about sort of the good old days in this period, you think of when the population was much lower, you're probably thinking of, 1960, 1970, something like that, right?
Yeah, we moved here in
97,
68.
when the train station opened,
The
number of building permits.
Oh, shut up.
So train would have been that
After the train
2000,
station came in,
that,
Martin.
1990, 2000 period.
Yeah.
right?
And that's normal.
Yeah.
But now we got the MBTA and now it's not, if the MBTA was here, and it is, but there was no stipulation about we have that, the MBTA community, that rule of the half mile, right? That is a rule. But if it didn't have the rule, would we still have the potential growth? Probably, because it's the MBTA, right? Just like you said, in the 70s, they opened up the train station. But that's through the natural process. It's not a forced process. Open up a train station. Hey, maybe we'll go out live in the sticks. We'll go out and live in Lakeville and we'll just take the train. Versus, you have to have all of this housing.
Those building permits were for single-family homes
Yeah,
in 97,
yeah.
because everyone was looking at for every exit you from down from Boston, house prices dropped
Correct.
about 20,000 back
Right.
then. So they'd build a
Hi, welcome.
single-family home.
Right,
I'd also posit that, having a train station nearby that's the terminus of a line is different than having a train station that is, you know, part of the line going farther down. Psychologically, it makes a difference. You don't view yourself as, okay, at the end of the line. And also, you know, parking's a little easier, a lot of reasons.
right.
Right, and I actually think that, for example, I think the Middleborough station is gonna be more of an enticement for development than the Lakeville station was because of that. That's just, I'm just,
Right.
supposition on my part, that's what I
Yep.
think.
So anyway, so we can agree that housing obviously is a priority. Land use goals 2.1, 2.2. Sure. Can you state your name and the reason for your?
My name is Nancy Shannon. I am Jack Lynch's girlfriend.
Come up to the mic, please.
Oh.
He had an acute appendicitis in Vermont last week.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
We were wondering
we were
where Jack
wondering
was.
too.
You know, so he said, go down, if I don't show
Oh,
up,
that's-
you're gonna kick me off
Okay.
the board. Okay.
No, we're not.
Whatever. So here I am.
Well, he's,
But he's just, you know, he's recovering. He'll
Oh.
be fine, but, you know, it was just too much to be able to come down here tonight.
Thanks for letting us know.
yeah, we really appreciate it. Tell him that we please wish him a speedy recovery and we do miss him.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
very
thank you
welcome.
so
Oh,
much.
you're
Sorry.
so
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you for the interruption. That was actually,
Our best wishes.
What was that?
I said, thank you for the interruption. It was actually, it answered a question that we had earlier. Well, thank you.
All right, you
And
guys
tell him that
take
we hope he
care.
gets better soon.
Okay, I will.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Be well.
Well, that was good to know, because I was warned this would be 2 meetings in a row he had made.
Yeah, so God bless him. So now that we know, so we'll let
But you said he was showing up.
Ari
I
said
thought I saw him at the last plan, but last plane board was a little while ago, right? I remember seeing him on a video, last one I watched. I think it was the last one, yeah. I don't know.
So we have a question here, so that's good. All right, so moving forward, kind of, you know, me talking has put us over 26 minutes, and I apologize for that. So, all right, moving forward, are there any other priorities other than the two that we've stated so far?
well, if I can ask Ari, on the housing production
Yeah,
plan, is that still,
The housing inventory?
I mean,
production plan is nearing completion, to my understanding.
okay.
Yeah.
Because under that, we had, looking to increase the stock for first-time home buyers and senior
Right.
population, but,
Yeah,
we did have a lot of over 55 developments, but they, you know, LeBaron changed. I think really,
oh, that's another real
Woods Edge.
point, by the way. Once you can build them as 55 and older,
And then they change.
but then when they change,
yeah.
Well, that's what
So-
happened when they built the condos or the ownership on 79, and then he came back and said, well, now I want to do some rental units.
it's a temporary measure at best, yeah.
So that's actually a great point. So if a developer makes a proposal, it's approved, it's for the intended use, they can change it. Is there a period of time where we mandate, like, okay, say it's gotta be this way for 10 years, it's intended use, like say the 55 and older, it's gotta be
Right.
this way for 10 years before there's any
I
suggested
believe,
changes?
Rita, you can help me out with this.
It's,
I-
the market changed,
Right,
number
the market,
one.
right, the developer
But the
can sell.
ZBA had to approve it, and they had to
Right.
show the market changed, they weren't
Right.
selling.
But also,
Oh, well.
if you happen to own a property
want to do
that's sold
it.
as a 55 and older, and you sell it, you can sell it. You don't have to look, you don't ask for a driver's license to get the age of the person who's buying it from you, I don't believe. I think that.
But if it's
yeah.
restricted to 55 and older, and say I'm 55, I buy it, I'm like, meh, I want to sell it.
Yeah,
I can sell it to a non-55-year-old?
Not the beginning part of
in
that
a certain period of time,
subdivision.
right,
That, the beginning part is still over 55.
right. Certain period of time, though.
That's
And
what I'm
the-
asking, like,
the
how
apartment
long, how
building-
long does it have to be 55 before it can be sold to non-55 or with no restrictions,
Oh,
I guess?
Don't think you ever can.
I don't think,
I know the big apartment unit that they built, that has stayed over 55. The newer ones, I don't think there's over 55 on any of the third and fourth phases of that. First and second phase, I believe, are all over 55.
Okay, I thought,
So the whole project was not over 50?
Originally, 278 units.
Yeah, so
Were
why,
over 55.
so what I hear you saying is,
They went
they
back to the
proposed to
ZBA.
us, hey, we're gonna put this development in, it's
That's
gonna
right,
be
that's
55 and older.
Yep,
And then sometime in the future, after the agreement, they're like, well, things aren't working out, the economy's kind of poor right now, we want to open it up to more people, so we're gonna remove the 55 restriction.
on the future one.
On the
But the
future ones?
ZBA had to approve it. The zoning board of appeals,
Right.
and it got
And they,
approved.
and they
That's
can't deny it?
I'm sure they can deny
Why
it.
couldn't they deny it, just say, well, you said 55,
Yeah.
and now you're changing your mind? You see what I'm saying? Because the
Yeah.
projections from the town, if we have the proposal come in, they say 55, as a town, do we not say, oh, okay, this chunk, 200 and something is gonna be 55, and we kind of do some
And
correct,
if
do
they're
some
not
projections on it?
selling,
so
then
not selling them, then
they shouldn't be allowed to build more.
On the 14th of this month, less than a week, we got another extension before the Conservation Commission. Another 4 buildings or something like that.
On that property?
You're talking about phases 4 and 5?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 4 and 5.
I know the restricted age condos, down at Bay's Neck.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My brain's
Those are
not
over
remembering the name of
55.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
So they were built, they stopped. They built phase 1, but they're not building phase 2. Because, the market's just not there. And I think some of it has to do with the economy, but also they're just not getting, they're rather expensive.
Yeah, they are.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I think,
But that's economics.
no, that's
a capitalist
that's
society.
business. That's
I mean,
business. You make a
the economy
decision.
is-
You make a decision when you're designing it. That's
Right,
what you
and
do.
you
Yeah.
make certain
Yeah.
guesstimates, but, you know, you can't predict that far out with the economy, but, so they stopped building.
My point being, in that case, they didn't say, can we change it to a general use or some sort? I mean,
That's what I'm saying, they
said-
stopped building because they're like,
Right,
okay,
yeah.
so then we gotta look at it as all right, well, we were anticipating, you know, say there's 1,000 unit, or how many units were there?
I don't remember.
It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, let's say 500 for example, phase 1's 250, phase 2's 250. You know, so we gotta make the adjustments for the loss of the 250.
Yeah.
Versus having, say 79, we're all gonna do 55, then stop building until the economy picks up and then 55-year-olds are gonna buy. Don't go back and say, oh, well, the economy sucks and, you know, I need to change now the outlook.
But you can't shoot them for asking, and if. and if
No,
we
you know,
approve-
absolutely not. You
And we
ask, but it
approve.
doesn't mean we have to approve it. Right?
You know, any regulation is only as good as its enforcement.
Right, that's correct. So, get off my soapbox. Cranky.
You'll be sitting on the table soon.
Yeah, well, I'm cranky right now, so. All right. Anything else about our priorities going forward other than what's stated?
I was gonna ask Ari about, 5.1, natural cultural resources. Has someone reached out to you yet to update our priority, development areas and priority,
You said that was 5.1?
protection, right?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, because the state is funding it this time, we don't
Yeah,
have to use.
I don't believe. Sounds familiar to me, but I don't think, no, I don't, no.
Because we were supposed to do it every 5 years, and
Okay.
we did have a lot of input from the residents. We had a lot of workshops, you remember, Joe? And again, to identify properties, Rodney and Lakeville, that we want to protect.
Open Space have
Hopefully-
done that a number of years too.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were very involved in the priority development, and more so the priority protection.
Yeah.
Could we get them re-engaged and,
I'll look into that.
Well, I would imagine some of that would be coming through with the next open space plan too, as they're developing that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't it?
that was another question I had. How close is the
That
Open
was mine,
Space
yeah.
Committee to finishing the open space plan?
I believe that's well along as well. I know they've been drafting. I don't know where they are exactly. But so I thought you were gonna ask about the OSRD, I'm sorry. It says here pursue 2023, so we're just in 2023 now, unless it's
Right.
before 20, okay, yeah,
And Harry, I have a question for you.
yeah.
We keep talking about the former state hospital. Associated with that, we have Dewey's bowling alley sites.
Yeah.
Is there anything going on? Anything?
Not that I'm aware.
Does anybody know what's going on at the end of 105 after Bluestone Bank? Half of that land is in
Yeah.
Lakeville.
Yeah, Zenith Consulting, they bought that property.
Oh, they did,
And
okay.
they're expanding, and then ultimately they're gonna, sell
Oh.
the property across the street. And they are working in both towns.
So that'll be business?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Good, good, okay.
there you go.
That's
There's,
Jamie,
Business,
Bisonet and Niles Dager.
because they, years ago, they wanted to put a gas station there.
I remember.
Yep, so that's good that it will be office
right, there you
space.
go.
Yep,
Some good news.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dewey's, that's a perfect spot to be developed into business, but
I wish it were a
And nothing-
recreation center. You had great memories of that place.
Oh, bowled many a string there.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what we should do, pool our money and,
and
Was it
Lakeville
was it
Nursery's
Candlepin
over.
or, was it Candlepin or 10-pin?
It was Candlepin.
Candlepin,
Candlepin.
Oh, that was the
or
best.
small, was it Candlepin or small ball?
It was actually duck pin and Candlepin.
That's what
Oh,
I was
Duck pin,
yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lakeville,
Until you, make a dent in the floor and then the owner yells at you, but I digress. Don't ask me how to know this.
Lakeville Nursery's over on 44 too. I had heard that had been sold, but
Lakeville
nothing's
Nurseries?
happening. Right.
Didn't Bob Palucci buy that?
Oh, did he? Okay.
Originally, I mean, by originally, I mean 2-3 years back. But I don't know that, he was gonna put commercial rental buildings there,
Yeah.
like for plumbers and
Yeah.
such like. And I don't know that anything much has been done there yet.
Just keep hoping for more business development.
Yeah, well, we're looking, to mention, the A-frame, I was just asking, I was in the office today asking about that. They came to us 2.5 years ago and ditched around there and nothing much has been done yet.
Tom Parento bought that, right?
Don't-
Cold storage guy?
don't-
I'm just
Yeah, so I
chuckling, this
keep hoping.
A-frame is rubble.
Yes, yeah. But we always knew it as the A-frame. Lakeville Divers Supply is what it was, and then it became a restaurant.
I only remember as the restaurant,
Yeah,
so.
that's one of the real challenges that we're facing is that the era of storefront commercial is basically, dying.
Yeah,
And, so that there's just not much pressure for anything besides residential development. Residential development and, I guess, industrial commercial, and that's pretty much it. So. it's
Right, and
unfortunate.
so,
So for example, if you wanted to put in a town center somewhere, 15 years ago, that would have been a thing.
And we
Nowadays,
tried that,
Yeah,
the other master plan.
nowadays, no
Yeah.
one wants to do that.
right. Okay,
Um,
has the committee any other comments, suggestions? Okay, we'll move forward then.
I
Okay to
know,
move
and
forward,
we'll
Rita?
get, going back to open space too, updating their website. I don't know that anybody on that committee,
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Thank you.
is able to do that.
I'll look into that.
Okay. All right, correspondence, memo regarding annual town meeting.
See, that's why the numbers are messed up on the agenda, is because originally I had a date of when it was scheduled for May 16th. Then I got
Yeah.
another memo that it was May 8th, then I got another memo.
Thank you,
So-
Rita. Thanks for reminding me. Thank you very much. It was a rough day.
So that's why my numbers, now I remember what happened.
I had a challenging day going on. Thanks for reminding everybody in the public. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, from RE Sky.
and I'd like to make sure that the
I
minutes,
don't think he sent out the
minutes for
first
this
one.
meeting reflect the fact that Jack's girlfriend came in to straighten us out.
Yes,
I don't think we need to have it.
absolutely. That's awesome. All right. So, would you like me to read the memo? Pretty short and
Yeah,
succinct.
just that the annual town meeting is gonna be on Monday, May,
Monday, May 8th. So the select board approved its schedule for this year's annual town meeting at its January 23rd meeting. In accordance with the town's bylaws, please submit any articles for the annual town meeting warrant by Monday, March 14th at 4 PM. Thank you for your cooperation, and please do not hesitate to contact my office if you have any questions. Ari Sky, Town Administrator.
And it's set for May 8th?
Yeah.
He said it twice, so it must
Yeah.
be May 8th.
Which is
May
the
8th.
date,
Least for now.
which is the date in the bylaw, so yeah, it's May 8th.
For now.
I almost be blushing right now. Yeah.
Brady's retirement could be changed.
All right. Schedule next meeting. Did the every other month work? Okay, so it's February, it's, see, March, that puts us in April, which is pretty darn close to the May
So if there's any,
town meeting.
bylaw, zoning,
Yeah.
it would be nice
At this
for us
point, we
to
don't know
see.
of any, but, it could be something could come up with planning board, but I don't know of anything that they're,
The open
So
space
do we wanna go-
residential bylaws not gonna move forward?
doesn't look like it.
The which one?
The OSRD doesn't look as moving forward for this town meeting.
Yeah.
It's been too much.
Can't agree on things.
Part of what I alluded to earlier.
Okay.
So do we want to do March, April, May?
April.
I think April, just before the town meeting.
Yeah.
Does that work?
I don't think we need to meet in March.
No, there's
I don't
really-
think so.
There's no need.
Sorry, we went 45 minutes, which is twice my limit, so you know,
Yeah.
that's gonna cover us for March. So, all right, April,
The 4th or the 18th, right, Joe? Because you meet on Tuesdays.
Yep.
The 4th is, election day.
Ooh,
you wanna do the 18th then?
Yeah. Right, isn't the 4th election day?
first, no, it's Monday, isn't it?
Is it Monday or Tuesday?
I think our local election
It's
is
on
on
Monday, you're right, it's the 3rd.
Yeah,
Well, 'cause
my
you
son's birthday.
can go the 4th if you want, I guess, all right.
So 18th?
14th, for the 18th, but 18th.
I think
18th, let's say the 18th. All right, yeah, sure, the 18th.
I'm sure it's
All right.
Tuesday. Any chance we could meet, at 6 instead of 6:30?
Fine with me.
That's fine with
Do
me.
you
I
don't
think it's
mind?
mostly Rodney and Denise.
It's up to you guys, I mean, yeah, just,
Okay, 6 o'clock.
if that's all right.
Denise,
Yep, that works.
do you think,
I'll be able to get here. at
okay, I
6.
don't want you to rush.
No,
Okay. All right, so, April 18th, 6 o'clock, note the change. Okay. Any other business that may properly come before the meeting?
I was just gonna mention, Denise, did you get the notice about the conflict of interest training?
no.
Okay, they want us to do it again this year. Oh, yeah, I got the email
They've
today.
redesigned it.
The one we just
I-
did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, they redesigned it and
Is this part 2 of that? Cause there was a part 2.
No, it's a whole different
This is a
one
whole
now.
new one now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so just,
It's,
the other one's a
Why,
wash.
why is
for
it not
part 2.
grandfathered in till next year?
It says typically every 2 years, but the town clerk is asked that,
Right, we got the notice from her today.
today.
Yeah.
because they redesigned it.
And?
And,
I have nothing else that I can say. I'm sorry.
And all of those-
I actually took the
Is
liberty of,
is this a request or a mandate?
it's a mandate.
it's a mandate,
Yeah.
yeah.
You'd think I'd get
Because my
100 on
response
it for how
always
many
is,
years
I'll do it when you
taking
do it.
I mean, I took
We
the-
get
I took the
requested
liberty
to
of- I took the-
ethics and conflict of interest stuff from state legislators.
I get stumped. I should get 100 for how many times I've taken it.
I just-
but 1 or 2, they
So
fool me.
they've totally revamped it. And I took the liberty of doing it today because I wanted, because I've, you know, be coming to meetings and people would say, want to know how it was, and so they updated the technology on it quite a bit, but it's not nearly as interactive as it used to be. So, which means you have to watch a lot of video.
Is the acting better?
So
Really don't
Denise,
like
I'll call,
There's really no acting in it at
I'll
all.
call the town clerk and have her send it.
Well, that's
add
what
you
just
to the
reminded me of
email.
school videos that you.
We got your email, so
funny.
would it have been with that?
I think we should
No.
probably move to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, can I move to adjourn?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Now I want to-